Welcome everyone to interview number 31 of OSU Improvement Month. Today with Swick. Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Now that I think about it, that's a really cool name to pronounce. It's just like Swick.
Swick,
Something
yeah.
about it.
I I think I made it literally just like randomly mashing my keyboard trying to come up with a new Discord name.
Oh, it spawned from Discord or what?
Like I was just like, okay, so I was like trying to figure out like a new name to use because I think before I was using my initials, so SAA,
Uh,
and then I was just like randomly typing stuff in like Discord, like just kind of like smashing my keyboard basically.
right.
And I somehow came to this. I don't remember exactly though.
Interesting. Yeah, now that I look at the keyboard, like S, W, Q are all really close, and then I is kind of like if you just put your right hand there.
Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. Those types of usernames are always they're actually it's like some people are like, oh, like it's cool if stories if usernames have like a cool story behind them, but like I feel like the button mash ones also are a pretty cool story
Yeah.
because it was decided by fate. But yes, so just in case people aren't familiar with you, could you give a brief introduction to who you are as a player and what people probably recognize you for?
Yeah, I'm Swick. I'm from Minnesota. I'm, what am I, like rank 130 or something?
122 now.
Oh, 122. I never remember. Um, and I think people mainly know me from playing tournaments. Like, I think that's where most of the, what's the word? Like, I guess little fame I have kind of came from.
Right, right. The sort of recognition as a player.
Yeah, recognition. That's the word.
Yeah, I actually had never really heard of you until World Cup tryouts this year, where you actually
Yeah.
did pretty well. Can you sort of talk about your experience, your World Cup tryouts adventure this year, 2022?
Um, so this year I came into it thinking that one, I didn't think I was gonna make the team. Two, I think the main thing that I wanted was to like get my name out there kind of. Like I didn't think I was gonna make the team, but I wanted to at least like maybe be like a consideration.
Right, like start getting recognized, basically.
Yeah. So hopefully like next year I there's like a bit more I guess incentive or maybe like thought put into me being on the team too.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy as well because it's like it's one thing to just like have someone come out of nowhere, but it's like if you've been seeing their name around, especially in like previous tryouts, then yeah, I think your perspective is definitely
Yeah.
correct. So, what is it about tournaments for you? What got you into tournaments in the beginning?
So I think oh yeah, okay. So the main thing, like the first like I guess it probably started back when I first like started the game. Like started playing like actively in 2019. Because I think one of the main things that got me to playing actively was OWC 2018 Grand Finals.
Oh,
Um, 70 points,
oh yeah, that was that year.
Azure Arbiter.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I think I've rewatched that like match, like probably at least like the first like before bracket reset, like the first match. I've watched that probably like 3, 4 times.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Like I don't know. There's some tournament matches that are like that for me. But I didn't play in any tournaments until I was my first tournament was late 2020 and I remember the main inspirations around that time were USC having like just finished, I think. And also I was watching your stream a lot back
Oh,
then
oh
and you
really?
kind of inspired me.
Oh wait, what the
Like
heck?
around the time you were making like remember those tournament videos you made? I'm in like the thumbnail, I think the first one you made like against Hadstack. I remember
Oh,
that.
wait, really? What the
Yeah.
heck? Whoa. Oh, like in the chat.
Yeah, like in the chat.
It's stuck.
I
Wait,
thought that was kind of cool. But like
oh.
it was like around that time when I was watching you that I kind of got inspired to actually sign up for one.
Whoa, what the heck? Wait, you're right there. It's like, the SpongeBob meme? That's like
Oh,
he's like pointing to it's like a TV of like an interview with Mr. Krabs and then like you can see the top of SpongeBob's head from like the kitchen in the background.
Yeah, I think I do.
And
I
then
think I
like
do.
SpongeBob is pointing to like the back of his head. It's like, look, I'm there. But
Yeah, that's basically what I thought at the time.
dang, that's crazy. So, okay, actually, I want to go one step further or like earlier because you found the game in 2017 but never really picked it up until you came across the World Cup match. So, first, I guess, how did you first discover the game? But then also, what was the chain of events that led to you watching the World Cup match in 2018?
Oh, okay. The first part I can answer. Second part, I don't think I can really answer. Or
Oh,
like, I maybe can, kind of. But the first part, basically, I watched. I guess it kind of goes in two parts. But I guess quick sum, I watched a lot of anime. Um, I ended up finding like AMVs of Set It Off songs for like animes, and I got into them. And then I was watching. I think it was like one of those like YouTube videos where they upload like I'm live right now, and then I found narrator's Twitch stream, and he played a Set It Off song, and I was like, oh my god, I can play the music I like
let's go.
in this
Wait,
game.
what is AMB?
AMV, anime music video.
Oh, AMV. Okay, I thought you said B.
I thought I
Okay.
said B. Yeah, but that was how I found the game. I don't know if I downloaded it or made my account like the same day I found it, but it was like around the same time.
I see.
And
I
then
see.
okay. And then for the World Cup, I can't say specifically. Actually, it probably was something to do. Okay, so I think one of the main things that got me into the game was also like watching Mirai, and I think around the time he was doing like his Japan vlogs a lot, and he did some Osu stuff still. And from him, I think I found BTMC, and then from BTMC, I think I found Bubbleman, and I think from watching I think it was like from watching some of like Bubbleman's like his improvement videos or whatever they were called.
Yeah, OC gameplay.
Yeah, and then I think I found his World Cup or like found the World Cup like stuff from that,
Oh,
but
interesting.
I am not completely sure about that because it's been a while.
That actually seems interesting because it seemed like you made your account in December 2017, but you pretty much didn't play the game. But at the same time, you were sort of like going down the rabbit hole of OSU content creation.
A bit, yeah. Like for me, when I find a game, I like to watch like a lot of YouTube videos on it usually. So like even like without like playing it too much. Also, I can say I played probably a bit more than what my graph shows because I played like I have parental like internet restrictions, so I played like offline a lot.
Oh, I
But
see.
it wasn't like that much more. Like I don't think there'd be a month where I went over like 1K play count, or probably over 500 play count
Okay,
before.
I see. Interesting. So, I mean, from there, you pretty much spiked. You went like 6,000 play count in multiple months
Yeah,
within that year in 2019.
yeah. Freshman year of high school, I peaked.
So,
I don't. I don't
oh,
think I'll ever
y-
do
uh,
that much play count again. Yeah, go on.
I mean, you're still getting like 3K, sometimes 4K play count.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. It doesn't feel like I'm playing as much anymore though. But like, I guess I still am.
I
I
mean,
guess
oh, you can go.
like tournaments and stuff also like those take up some time, and then I end up like I guess play count's a bit lower because of them and stuff too, compared to what it actually would be.
Right,
But I
right.
don't think too much.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
even still, like playing that much Score V2 and still getting like 3K, sometimes 4K play count per month is actually very impressive. I feel like that averages out to like a similar, and I assume you probably like generally retry less, if I had to imagine.
Um, it kind of depends on how I'm feeling in the day. I kind of just do whatever I kind of just do whatever I want when I play. Like I don't really care.
Okay.
Like I don't like have any method like of to a session really, or I kind of do, but I don't. Like if I want to play do something, I'll do something.
So early on, especially when you were like going crazy with your play count, did you have any other like I guess motivations or like other friends or friendly rivals that you played alongside, or was it very just like kind of being really into the game at the time?
I think okay, so I can the reason I started climbing the ranks was because of a Mirai video where he like mentioned like ranks or whatever. I was like, oh, I should try and get higher rank than them. And but I don't think I ever paid attention to like where my rank was compared to them, and I ended up just like completely like passing them.
Oh, you're talking about
um,
Mirai?
yeah, from one of his like Japan vlogs, it was like him and his friends, and they mentioned their rank.
Oh,
But then, like, besides that, it was, like, completely self-motivated, like, I guess my motivation was just, like, doing exclamation point R in Torino and trying to, like, work my way up the higher PP values.
let's go. That's funny. How did you come across Tillerino? I feel like I mean I don't even know how I came across Tillerino, but yeah, I'm kind of curious.
I it was probably a YouTube video again,
Oh,
probably something like was maybe Cthulhu was I don't know if he was doing stuff back then. Maybe Verto? It could have been Verto.
oh, that sounds possible.
He probably mentioned it in a video before.
Interesting, because I feel like around like 2018, 2019, it's like, I mean, unless you were watching a much older video, but I feel like there was this sort of stigma around PP farming, especially at the time. So I'm surprised anyone would sort of like talk about Tillerino unless it was like in a bad light.
I mean, it might have been. I don't know. I honestly don't remember too much from that time. Like, I don't know. Maybe I can recall bits and pieces here, but like, I just remember I watched Verto a lot, so it probably would be around him, and it'd probably be in like, I guess considering his content, some sort of sarcastic or like bad light. I don't know, but I ended up doing it, I guess. So.
So, fast forwarding. So, you mentioned that around a little after the World Cup, or not World Cup, United States Cup in 2020, you started really playing tournaments more actively.
Yeah, okay, my first tournament, like Dio Autumn Singles, I kind of didn't play one for a while after that because of like basically summing up just mental health. But then it was like basically late 2020, like October. It was like OBR, and then my first Steam tournament was Hippo Cup 4, 3, whichever one
Yo,
was in 2021.
that was Hippo Cup 4. Yeah, 4.
Yeah, 4. Then that was my first team tournament, and then it kinda just, gained momentum from there.
Hippo Cup. What are your thoughts on Hippo Cup? I must ask.
Thoughts on Hi thoughts on Hippo Cup? I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been cool if I made it out of group stage, but
Oh, anyway, okay. Next question. So I noticed that you tend to play with the same couple people in a lot of tournaments. Is there a story behind how you met some of these people that you play with for tournaments often?
Um, y yeah, I guess. I think a lot of it partly stems okay, so, like, some of the times it's just kind of from me putting up looking for group chats, and then I talk to them, and then they invite me to more tournaments afterwards, and I'll join them and stuff. So, like, from Hippo Cup, I met, Yenneter and Wuchi, and I've only played one other tournament with Wuchi, like, this year, so it's actually been a long time, but since, like, I didn't play with him much. But, like, with Yen, I played, like, a lot of tournaments in 2021 with him, like Corsace, some smaller, like, kinda 2v2-ish ones too.
Okay.
Like, then there's also stuff like Perennial, where, like, Rectagon recommended me to Pincus, I think, and I joined that team, and then I ended up playing in a different tournament with Pincus, I played in Centario with Pincus, and then from that I knew Flasho, and then Flasho invited me to, or like then Flasho got me on his ADS team, and then um also invited me to BOP3 as yeah, the BOP3. So it's kind of just like I put a looking for group chat. I get a team, and then sometimes like the people on there will like invite me to other tournaments too. That happened with Perennial this year with like Coda and yeah, Coda, Luciano, I guess. Bashi a bit.
Oh, I see. Thanks. So sort of a chain reaction.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what was your skill set at the time when I guess when you first started playing really actively, and then also when you started playing tournaments? And what was the sort of process of expanding from your first couple of skill sets to eventually being a bit more well-rounded for tournament play?
Yeah, so basically until like I think it was like I hit 3-digit May 2020. No, May. And then so at that point I was basically only an aim player, and more specifically like almost only a DT player, and sometimes there'd be like hard rock maps, but not not so often that I'd play. So it was I think a couple months later, it was before the first tournament I joined. I just like kind of was just like, okay, I want to learn streams. And so I sat down for like 2 months and worked my way up to like being able to play like 180 BPM like dev streams and stuff. And then that slowed down a lot. And then I started playing in more tournaments. I think most of my improvement kind of being more rounded came just from playing tournaments and like playing like when I play like practice a pool, I make sure I play like every map. And usually the maps I put in like the most practice to are the ones with like the ones that I'm like the worst at.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Like I can earnestly say if you were to like look at like my practice scores for like a lot of especially in like 2021, like a lot of those tournaments, my most played like maps would easily always be like hidden two. Like I always put in like like I swear like 8, 10 plays on those.
Oh my God.
Even if I wasn't gonna like be in for it, I just played them a bunch because I suck at that skill set, and I still am not that good, but we're working on it.
I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because I feel like that's such a, I guess, simple yet such a powerful way to work on well-roundedness is basically playing tournaments, but not just playing tournaments, because it's equally possible to just, I guess, only play the maps that you feel like you're gonna play in the match and
Yeah,
just ignore the other ones. But if you really practice a map pool, basically what happens is you want to feel as comfortable as possible on all the maps. So it's like you play through everything once, and then the ones that you already felt okay on, or the ones that are already your skill set, you don't really touch them that much. But the ones that you're weak at, you end up playing over and over again. And that sort of like spending more time on your weaknesses, but at the same time not neglecting your strength, is basically the recipe, I think, for well-roundedness.
yeah, definitely. I think it was definitely around the time I started. Like I also like started creating more like I guess some collections that had a lot more like tech maps and stuff and maps I hadn't played as much. N- The tech maps one weren't always from tournaments, but like I have like a hidden two collection basically, and they're like just all tournament maps. So I kind of got mind blocked on like a lot of them
Oh
though.
no. You mentioned, okay, so you got 3-digit in May 2020 with pretty much only DT and some hard rock. How was
Yeah.
your like AR reading like comfort range at that time?
Ah, I mean, it's a bit hard to like. I think I could play like 10.3, like I could play 10.3 DT like stuff like in tournaments. I think pretty fine as soon as I started playing. So like, I guess at that time it would probably still be like 10.3ish was kind of my peak. I don't think I could go much higher than that. Um, but also it's like I'm nowhere near as comfortable on it as I am now. Like back then, if you were to give me like a map with like a lot more triples or like a bit like weird rhythms, I would probably end up like double tapping some stuff just to like keep combo.
Because I'm kind of curious if you felt that you could like only read DT ARs or that you could only read high ARs at that time when you started playing tournaments.
I think it was more like I stuff below like AR 9.5, I'd say was like way harder for me to play. I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stuff below like AR 9.5, especially like hidden. I could not play that well, but I don't think I was terrible at it. Like I think I could still like I could play like, No Mod 1 or something or like maybe if there was like an AR9 map, I think if it was like 6 stars, I think I could maybe still play it, but I don't remember it that well.
I'm curious when you were first, I guess, trying to get more comfortable with lower ARs, or were there specific ways that you tried reading differently that you found really helped you, or was it just a matter of like exposing yourself to those like I guess more normal like no mod and hidden ARs until they felt a little less bad?
I've definitely like tried reading stuff differently. Like I've tried like making sure I look at like every note or whatever. And like when I've like tried to learn like lower AR, like AR8, I've tried like, do I look at the note kind of as it comes in and then instantly like, look to the next one and kind of like let my aim kind of drag behind it? Or do I try and look at like the notes, like use my peripheral and then look at the notes and where I'm aiming, but like the note's not there or whatever, and kind of like after it disappeared? I've thought of that, and I think after all this time, I've come to the conclusion that that requires too much focus, and I'm just gonna try and look at the notes however I feel like it in the moment. And whatever that is, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't work, then I miss. So
And you're talking about the like reading each note individually or like looking at each circle at a time, taking too much effort.
I mean like that or just like what I said before, like trying to look at the notes like in certain ways. Like with low AR, like looking at it as it appears versus looking at it when it like needs to be played or something.
Ah, okay.
Like I think I let like way more like peripherals. I think there's some value in looking at every note individually, but of course at like certain high ARs that becomes like actually I wouldn't completely say it's way harder, but I think with as density increases it becomes harder. Like I think with easy it's probably harder to read like notes individually than it is with like AR11.
That's actually a interesting point. I never thought of it that way because that's actually true. It's like you'd have to hold so much more in your head. It's more of like
Yeah.
mental capacity to look at each note versus just being able to do it as fast as possible. Because
Yeah.
I know Monk the Dawn in his interview he mentioned that for AR11 he actually does look at each circle individually, and he says it's really hard, but like it sort of pushes you to really make sure you're focused while you're playing those maps.
Yeah, it definitely helps you like make sure that you're aiming properly or whatnot, but it does also require like a lot of focus to do it.
So you also mentioned streams that you sort of sat down for 2 months and just kind of grinded streams. So I assume starting from like being relatively just not comfortable on them at all. Someone
Yeah.
actually, Kama in the live chat pinged you and said how to
Oh
stamina.
yeah.
I'm curious if you can
Um
expand a bit on like I guess the general process that you took to like going from I guess like what you sort of did within those 2 months.
yeah, so for those 2 months, like I basically started like not being able to like stream like I don't know. It's hard to say what exactly point I was at, but I just know I couldn't like stream very long. I definitely couldn't depth stream like anything like 170 or above. But I basically just kind of sat down. I made a collection of like maps that were like hmm, not always like just like pure dev streams, but they're they had like aim flow aim in it, and it was like for the most part there was no breaks, or maybe there were breaks, but like there wasn't like aim breaks or like jump breaks. It was just like complete streams, and then maybe like a spinner or something here or there. And I just like played maps like those, like basically whenever I could, my entire session. And I don't know. I guess I kind of brute forced it. I think like more recently, like the past year and a half, I've kind of focused a bit more on like tapping technique and trying to like relax more and going back to like lower BPMs and trying to get like better AC and stuff. I think that's helpful, but it doesn't necessarily like increase stamina. I think increasing stamina, you just have to increasing stamina, you're gonna have to like strain, I think. I like stuff like barking mad dogs, Bon Appetit and stuff. It doesn't necessarily like for to increase stamina, I don't think it has to be death streams. I think you just have to like I think you just have to get to the end of your session and just be like, yeah, I can't play anymore.
Yeah, that is okay. There's a couple of things you mentioned that I think are actually pretty good. So one is that, well, I guess the sort of brute force aspect, I think, is actually like I think really important to keep in mind. I think a lot of people try to like over optimize instead of like just kind of putting the practice in. And
Yeah.
you so aside from that, you mentioned like later on sort of the technique aspect as well. How much, this is a very like opinionated question, but how much of streaming, like the tapping aspect, do you feel like is technique, and how much of it do you feel like is raw stamina?
I mean, you need the technique to an extent to be able to like I think technique comes into effect either when it comes to what people would say as finger control stuff, like a lot of like doubles, triples, like quints and stuff, like but like in a row or whatever. And and also when it comes to streaming stuff like longer than like what 10, 20 notes, I think finger control becomes a bit more of a thing. But for the most part, you could like almost not practice it, I'd like to say, and then just like purely focused on just how like long you can stream and like just completely burning out your stamina and like just maxing out your stamina, I guess. And like you maybe won't get as good of act, but you can definitely like get to really high BPMs, like much higher than I can do just by like purely focusing on stamina. Like technique, I think it matters more so when it comes to like those specific like maps that require that I guess that like require it, like that require like more complex finger control. And and when it comes to like pushing accuracy in like BPMs, because you can get to the point where you can like FC the entirety of We Love Llama, like the lawn stream
Right.
with like 94 act, like maybe 85 act, and you can not be running out of stamina. Like you can get like an 80% accuracy on We Love Llama and just have zero stamina lost. But that doesn't like mean like having good stamina doesn't mean you're gonna get good acts. So it matters to a point, but you can get like you can technically become like what people consider like a really good stream player. Like you'll get like maybe like you're not gonna get 99% act on stuff, but like you'll still be able to go like really high BPMs.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess if that makes sense.
No, that definitely does make sense. I feel like what I think is interesting is you mentioned that technique is a little more important on like finger control stuff versus longer streams,
Yeah.
which I think so. The way I sort of think of it is, I mean, there's sort of two sides to it. There's one that's like you have the control to like stop a pattern, like stop a burst, and then like start another one again, like over and over and over again, which
Yeah.
I think that's a lot more like stamina draining for a lot of people. But I think like having one long continuous stream, it's sort of like two aspects of stamina, I feel like, and in my experience at least, because admittedly this is something that I definitely struggled with, is like having stamina for longer streams, but your technique just drains it all like immediately. So like you can play like
Oh,
constant triples and quints and like this finger control stamina draining stuff relatively fine, because like you only have to go 5 notes at a time, and then you can kind of like pick yourself back up and reset. Like I think the technique that you use for like short fast bursts compared to longer streams is definitely a little different. And as you mentioned, sort of the strain that's necessary if it's like a little fast for you, like you can sometimes maintain a certain speed for like 5 notes or maybe up to 9 notes, but then like once you get past that point, like that sort of like bursty, like strainy type of tapping just doesn't, it just isn't as suitable anymore. And you end up like, even if you technically have the stamina, it just all gets drained in those first 9 notes, and then you just can't tap anymore.
yeah, that definitely happens a lot. Because yeah, when you want to do like longer streams, you definitely don't want to be straining as you want to strain as like as little as possible. And I guess best case scenario, you don't want to strain at all.
I'm curious if you had, or like if like for you specifically, if there's one that's sort of more, that was more or less comfortable for you to like learn than the other, as like sort of the finger control aspect versus like much longer stream stamina.
Oh yeah. I don't completely know. Like right now, I think I'd say like finger controlly stuff, like speed stuff, comes maybe comes more naturally to me. But like I think like when I first started kind of training tapping a bit more, it was definitely stamina. But now it's like I think speed comes better because yeah, I think it's more like technique than stamina. So I think it's a bit easier to like learn more in a shorter amount of time, if that makes sense.
For longer streams?
No, like for like finger control stuff, like it's easier to learn because it's just like tapping technique.
Oh,
So
interesting.
like if you think of like triples like in a row,
Right, right.
um you of course it could be like just increasing your stamina, but like if you're like doing it, like what's the thing? Like ZXC, ZXC, ZXC. It's
Yeah.
or you could do like ZXC, ZX, ZX like that's like just a way to like, kind of I guess you have to get over like your kind of precondition if you're like used to doing like ZXC, ZXC, if you're used to doing it like that.
Right, right.
But it's like easier to learn finger control stuff, I think, in a shorter amount of time. Like maybe like not of course like the complexer it gets like the harder it gets, but like compared to stamina, where stamina is I don't know, people like use like weightlifting comparisons a lot and stuff. Like I think I listened to Utami's one, like the like track kind of comparison, I think works really well.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for
Where it's just
stamina.
like you kind of just like drain yourself and it kind of builds up way more slowly, I think, than something like finger control can.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and I I also definitely agree with your like what you mentioned about like full alting versus single tapping on bursts and stuff. I'm curious
Yeah.
if you have your own experience with like full alt versus single tap, like which style you sort of started with, and if that had to evolve at all as you learned different skill sets.
Oh, well, I can comfortably say that I basically basically before I started like playing the game super actively, I started full alting, so I never really single tap like ever. But I do I have had like stuff with like learning like what you said, like single tap and full alt on triples and stuff, and on like more complex rhythms. Like I still like kind of single tap that stuff, but I guess I can do it with either finger. But like on lower BPMs, it's easier to like just completely full alt. But then like the higher you go, which is also probably the more important, it is to like actually just completely full alt stuff. Like it saves way more stamina. Like, but it also becomes like way harder to figure it out.
Wait, so you mentioned that you started playing pretty much only full alt, but you sort of still sometimes single tap like consecutive bursts? Is it like a finger control thing, or like do you have a preference to starting bursts on a certain finger?
Um, I guess it's just kind of how I developed. It's technically like a finger control issue. Like it's technically like a bad habit, I guess. But it's just how I ended up like learning it. Because I mean, when you start trying to follow up because like you saw a Mirai video and then you watch Bubble Man, like I don't know, you just gotta figure it out. You don't really know what triples are when you're what like unranked because you like don't play online. So
I see. Interesting. So do you, and again, this is more of a like personal, like just for you sort of question, but like, are there any specific patterns or like finger control type stuff that you find to be the trickiest to play?
um, I don't really I can't really think of something off the top of my head. Sometimes I feel like like if I'm not warm like super warmed up, doubles are like super fast doubles can be really tough. But then again, I guess like I think most of the time the issues I have more with finger control tend to come from just like a lack of speed or like I guess changing BPMs rather than being like about the patterns themselves as much, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So the more like complex rhythm aspects, but not necessarily the actual patterns.
Yeah, like it's not the issue isn't that like, you know, it's consecutive triples or that it's like, you know, like some quint or like quad double pattern like what Midorigo Queen, like the Dada one.
Oh,
Like the issue isn't really that pattern in specific. It's like it's just like how fast it is or like if the BPM changes, like how the BPM changes and stuff. Like that's more of the tough stuff, I think,
I see, I
for me.
see. So you mentioned the whole like sort of sometimes just being speed gapped on those types of patterns. And I want to tie that into tournament performance a little bit, or like the sort of tournament skill set. So I'm curious how you balance pushing your like skill cap and mechanics and also balancing your well-roundedness for tournament play.
Um, I think like I think a lot of the time, oh god, I don't know. um, I think most of the time you can just like play the pool and practice what you're bad at in a pool to help you get better. Of course, sometimes like pools star rating like jumps and stuff, you need to find more middle ground. There's always stuff like the Fun Orange Osu trainer and stuff. Plus also is like collection thing. Like usually if there's a specific skill set that like you figure out you're struggling on from like playing a pool or something, there's like especially like the Osu collection, like Fun Orange thing, you can definitely find some collection that has other like different like difficulty of maps that you can train that stuff on. But I think for the most part, um, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the times you can also like train your skill cap through tournament pools. Though I guess it depends on how far you get in the tournament. But I guess this might be a bit different from what you asked, but I think pushing skill cap is more important than being well rounded. Even for tournaments.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I was just about to ask about that. Like, if you wanted to get to the very, very top levels of tournament play, would you rather push skill cap first and then be well-rounded, or would you rather be well-rounded first and then push skill cap?
Yeah, I think it's just in general always better to it's also kind of like the same idea with like people who like talk about like oh I want to be consistent but I also want to like, you know, push skill cap. And it's like if you push your skill cap, you're also pushing your consistency. And if you just push consistency, you're only like artificially like pushing how comfortable you are and stuff. And like you kind of try and maintain that and stuff, but then you're not pushing your skill cap either. So it's just kind of like you're getting comfortable with stuff, but you're not getting better really as a
Yeah,
player.
that reminds me of the whole like if you want to be able to stream like 180 infinitely, for example, would you rather push your speed past that point to like 200, 210, and even 220? or would you rather just stay at 180 and just push stamina forever? And I think the main thing is like, as you mentioned, like as you push higher BPMs, like 200, 220, etc., then 180 is going to start feeling slower, and by effect, it'll end up feeling easier. But if you only push stamina, then you might like refine your general gameplay and maybe your technique a little bit on 180 BPM, but you will never have broken into like those higher BPMs.
Yeah. Like if you just like, I guess this goes back to what you were talking about, or what we were talking about earlier of like finger control and stamina. Like if you just focus on finger control, then you're not gonna get faster from it, but you're just gonna get like more comfortable. But if you push higher BPMs, even if like you ignore your finger control to an extent, then you're technically like getting I think I'd say you're like improving more than someone who just like tries to get comfortable at something rather than pushing themselves.
When you say finger control, are you talking about your technique, or are you talking about like actual like finger control patterns?
I kind of use it as another word for like technique, I
Ah,
think.
okay.
Like I
Okay.
like to think of maps kind of in like kind of three general ways. There's like speed maps, which are maps that like kind of have when it comes to like tapping and stuff. There's like speed maps, which happen to have like what people would call like finger control stuff, like quints and stuff that doesn't necessarily require or stuff that doesn't really have like long streams in it.
Okay, so
There's
like
like
constant bursts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like stream maps which are like honesty where like there's longer streams, but they're usually like have like, like what are they called? The buzz sliders or
Oh yeah, yeah, like the
I
repeat
forget like
sliders.
the mapping term for them. Like kick sliders and like kick sliders and stuff.
Oh, the
Like to
ones
kind
like
of break
between.
it up.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
those are actually buzz slider, like the ones that like repeat for a while and you can sort of pause there.
I think the kick sliders were the ones that like there's the end of the stream and they just like there's not repeat, like they just like
Oh,
they're just like a slider at the end of the stream.
okay, yeah,
They're
yeah,
kind of like a little kick.
yeah, yeah. Those are kick sliders.
Yeah, but like stuff like that where there's technically like a bit of a break is like, and then maybe there's like some dev streams or stuff in there once in a while. That's
Right,
what I consider like a stream map, and then dev stream map is like, We Love Llama, or like what we think of like We Love Llama, which is like the big stream. Of course,
right.
We Love Llama has like finger control stuff too, or like speed stuff, I guess. And then Sun, the Moon, the Stars, like all those like super like long stream maps that, for the most part, there's like not many ranked maps that actually have like that like length of streams.
So speed maps, which are much shorter length bursts for the most part, and obviously higher BPM than the other two, and then stamina or like stream maps basically, which are like relatively long streams, but they definitely have gaps between them. And then death streams, which is just like continuous forever, basically, or seemingly forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'd say that like speed maps don't have to be like high BPM. Like you could have like what's a like a lot of time people play like like speed maps with DT or whatever. If you took off DT, they'd still be speed maps in my opinion. Like it doesn't matter the BPM, it's just like how they're mapped.
Oh, so it's the type of patterns that you find there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Because
okay.
like depending on the player, like 180 BPM could be speed for someone versus someone else saying like 300 BPM is like what they consider like fast, I guess, rather than speed.
Interesting.
Like what they consider fast. So it's like to define speed by like what a speed map is by the BPM feels a bit weird to me, I think.
Oh, okay. That's actually an interesting perspective. So it's like speed maps are basically maps that you would use to push speed more so than you would your longer streams.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like that perspective too, because like when I mentioned like quote unquote higher BPM, I sort of imagine like relative to whatever you would consider a stream map or whatever you would be playing for streams. But at the same time, yes, I think that is definitely good. If nothing else, just a good message to send out to people, because I think a lot of people feel concerned because like they hear top players saying like, oh, like there's these top speed players that they look up to and they want to be able to play as well as them, and they're like, yeah, I warm up and I'm usually playing like, I don't know, 220, 230, like longer streams just to get my fingers loosened up. And I feel like that's just like, obviously some people are at that point and it's very impressive, but for the majority of people, as far as like knowing how to like recognize where they currently are, I think that's something that I'm glad you sort of emphasized.
Yeah, like BPM, like and what you're comfortable on is like just completely up to you. And there's like Xylus or whatever, and he'll just be playing like whatever BPM he plays and hit like def streams at like 270 or something. It's
Yeah.
like that's just not like most people. So it's like I don't know, just view it at like your own like work at it at your own pace.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point. So, speaking of death streams, also, and this is more of a very opinionated question because I feel like this differs from person to person. But if you had to put a number or like maybe like a range of like numbers as to like when a stream becomes a death stream, how exactly do you think of that in your head?
I kind of came up with numbers from the UK like speed interview or like not speed
The
like his
speed
speed
talk?
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it was something like, like 50 notes for a def stream, like 12 to 16 is like where a stream starts. And then like below that, like it's like a burst, and then like, there's quints and quads and triples and doubles and singles.
So he mentioned that streams start around like 12 to 15, did you say?
I think it was like 12 to 16.
Oh,
I mean, maybe
16.
he didn't say this and I just kind of figured this out, but this is kind of how I've always viewed it.
Okay, so if that's a stream, then like at what point does it become a death stream?
50 notes or so, like around that area.
Okay, it's like 48, 50 around
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, just something that
Of course, like putting an exact number on it is a bit weird, so it's just like whatever.
yeah, yeah.
But like around that area.
Yeah, I think the definition, quote unquote, that I've heard before is like when raw stamina becomes more of a limiting factor than any other skill, or like aspect of it. Like there's flow aim and there's the reading aspect and all that sort of stuff, and like general coordination when it comes to streams. But when the primary like limiting factor becomes like stamina, and this is assuming because like obviously most people wouldn't consider 16 notes a death stream, even if it's very stamina draining for you. But as far as like once you're relatively comfortable with most aspects of streams and you start playing longer stuff, then it's like once stamina starts to be like the primary form of difficulty over the other stuff.
Yeah, I get that, but then there's also like at a certain point you can be comfortable enough to like not run out of stamina, and then it's like I guess it's not a death stream under that definition, right?
Okay, that's actually a good
So,
point. Okay, that's
but
fair.
otherwise, yeah, it's like I guess if you want to like look at it as like a personal view, that works.
Right. So you've mentioned a couple times that you really like watching videos, and even not just for Osu, but just for any game or I guess activity that you're really getting into. I'm curious what you would say is the value of like, I guess, not really improvement related videos per se, but like people discussing like different concepts of the game and like watching videos to maybe like get a better understanding of like what you could do in the game or things like that. Like what exactly is the value of that type of content for you?
Like I think to an extent it's like kind of getting like when I watched like Verdo a lot, it was kind of like, learning a bit more about like kind of community stuff, like how like, PP farming and like DT abusing or whatever. And then um, just kind of like stuff that you'd only get by like being in the community a lot. And then I don't know. I mean, for the most part, it's always like for fun. Like I just enjoy something, and then I just wanna like experience it more. I guess, even if it's not like through me playing it. I guess.
I see. Well, so for things like Ryuke's speed talk, for example, because there's like different perspectives to this, so I'm sort of curious of your thoughts as well. But like, sort of the balance between like I guess learning about the game and like ways that you can practice versus like literally just putting in the time to practice the game. Like, what is the value of watching videos like Ryuke's speed talk and things like that?
Um, I definitely think there's like value to like you can get like certain points out. Like I think the common one people get out, like newer players might get out from watching like interviews a lot, especially when it comes to like speed. I guess like for you kids stuff is like like tap lighter or something, or there's always I think there's always some type of advice that someone like maybe it's obvious to some others, but like that someone can get out of like something, even if it could be obvious to someone else, but like to you, you never even thought of that or something like that.
Right.
And but when compared to actually playing the game, I can say that there's stuff like I've heard in like interviews and stuff, or like I guess podcasts kind of for this game, and I like heard it and I was like, okay, this is good advice. But then I never actually put it into practice until like I kind of somehow ended up like stumbling upon it myself while playing and realized, hey, this is actually pretty good. I should do it more.
Oh,
And so I don't know. Like they're definitely helpful, but of course you're gaining nothing if you don't put in the effort. And I think for the most part, most of the things, like I think a lot of things are different from person to person. And for the most part, you have to learn most stuff by like playing yourself. And like stuff like that is only like a tool to maybe guide you in certain ways.
okay. That actually does make sense. That sort of balance of like using it as a general loose like guideline, or maybe for like inspiration for like things that you can try. But I mean, I feel like the general consensus really is that like nothing beats just like putting in the practice. And yeah, I think also like the context, or like sort of where you are while you're listening to that thing, can I think make a difference as well. Because like if you're listening to like an interview and someone mentions something that you're like, oh, that seems like a good idea, but like you don't, like let's say you're like in the car or something like that, like you're not actually able to like go try it yourself,
Mhm.
and like by the time you are able to play, then you kind of forget. I feel like that's also something that is relatively important, as opposed to like listening to the interview while you're literally playing the game and being like, you know what, I'm gonna go try that thing right now and see how it feels for me.
Yeah, definitely there's definitely a difference between, kind of figuring or like taking the advice as it comes in versus like kind of hearing it and then just like thinking maybe I'll do that later, maybe I won't. Um, yeah, I don't know.
The other aspect that I think is, at least for me, I think is really valuable with content related stuff is just inspiration, to just hop on the game and like have all these sort of fresh ideas in your head, or like just sort of being inspired by the stories that people have shared, and things like that. I feel like that's something that's really valuable, or even just like random like for fun community type videos, like clip compilations or any other sort of like stuff that's not quite related to like actual gameplay. Like I think history videos as well, like people that cover like stories of like
Ooh.
when someone did something legendary in the game, and being like, man, that's so cool, and I want to play.
Yeah, history videos, like, I mean, people can like harp on the quality of like Brewmaster L, but sometimes that shit can be kind of inspiring to play.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, um, yeah, like for me, when it comes to getting motivated, um, yeah, videos, like I'll just like sometimes I'll stumble upon like a Seapoll video or like some clip video in my YouTube feed and I'll watch it and I'll be like, hey, I kind of want to play Osu now. But yeah, I think that's definitely a big thing for motivation is just like even like listening to like interviews or something, they can they can help motivate you. Kind of hearing someone who's like better at the game talk about it can motivate you to also try and want to be better too.
You know what I think the biggest example of that is probably is really big tournaments like the World Cup grand finals.
Yeah.
Though that's like the type of inspiration that makes people start playing the game in the first place, and they're like, dude, that's gonna be me one day, and they just start grinding.
Isn't that what Praxia? Isn't that like a
So
Praxia's thing?
yeah, I mean, there's so many people. I'm not sure about Apraxia actually, but I know Mongo for sure. Utami,
Okay.
I think as well, and I mean, there's so many examples of
Yeah,
that,
there's definitely a lot.
and yeah, that on a similar note, I feel like that. I mean, this is not exclusive to OC. I feel like there's this thing like around like Worlds season for League of Legends or like other like really big games that have like really big tournaments where it's like after the big tournament ends, then like everyone's is like just motivated to grind the game and just play a bunch.
Yeah, not NA. We're doomed.
Oh no.
It's over. No, no. But yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, I think just seeing someone who's reached such a high level and is better than you, and like, I think you can view it in two ways. You can view it as like, oh, I'll never get there. You can view it as like, oh, that's what I'll be in the future. And of course, there's one way that I think most people would agree is like the better way to the view about it, which is like, that's where I think I hope I'll be in the future. You shouldn't say hope. You should say like I will be. It's like the thing of setting goals. You don't wanna say like I'll try. You wanna say I will, and then if you fail, it's like whatever you failed. But
That
yeah,
yeah, I actually I like that perspective a lot. That makes me want to ask other like I guess mindset related questions or like if there's any other like general let me think of how to put this because like that sort of like identifying as the thing that you want to be as opposed to like aspiring to be that thing but feeling like you're not actually there yet. There's this sort of like difference in the way that you like not only the way that you think of yourself but also like the activities that you do. This is a common example with like let's say you want to start going to the gym actively, then identifying as someone who goes to the gym every single day and that's just kind of what you do like from an identity like basis is a lot different from being like, man, my New Year's resolution is that hopefully I can start going to the gym a little more often like those other people do.
oh yeah, I have a lot of friends who go to the gym, and sometimes I think maybe I should have gone with them, but I don't.
Oh no.
But like, yeah, I mean, I learned it in like what health class. Like when you want to set goals, you always give yourself a deadline. And you always, like, say you never like, write your goal down. Like, when you write your goal down, you never say, like, "I'm gonna try to," or I hope to be," or, like, "I want to be," or something. You always say, like, "I will." And then like, because people, like, are afraid of failing, but failing is extremely, like, natural, and sometimes and especially when it's something like it's like a personal goal, it's like, yeah, no one else is gonna care if you fail, so, like, just it is what it is. And, like, yeah, also, it's like 'cause you were kind of saying with, like, the gym, it's actually, I don't remember, whatever.
Yeah, what you mentioned is especially with like it's kind of double edged. I feel like mentioning your goal to other people, I think it really depends on the way you do it because in some sense there's like a public commitment sort of aspect to it where like if you tell people like I will go to the gym like 5 times this week or like 5 times every week or something like that, just to use a simple example, that sort of like now like you've made a commitment on public record that other people can hold you accountable for. And it's
Yeah.
and at the same time it's a lot different than like I plan on or I hope to because those are very like you still have permission to back out and like people aren't going to hold you accountable for it. But yeah, at the same time I think oftentimes sharing your goal and like hearing people like praise you for like having set such a goal can give you the reward like in place of like actually finishing the goal. Like let's say you say I'm gonna finally like I don't know clean up my diet or something, and then people are like, oh my gosh, that's such an awesome thing that you're planning on doing, and it's like, well, thank you so much, and then you sort of get that satisfaction. You're like, okay, well, I've gotten the satisfaction out of this goal already, so now I don't actually have to follow through with it, I guess.
Oh, I don't feel like I've ever I mean, I definitely agree with, like, setting a goal, like, and making it public can be a double-edged sword because you feel of course, you're more motivated to do it because you, like, you told other people you're gonna do it, but
Yeah,
then also, like, then if you don't do it, it's like, "Oh, I told people I didn't do it." But the thing is that, like, we're not politicians, like, why the hell does it really matter if other people if, like, we set a goal and told other people that we're gonna do it, and then, we end up failing, like when we set those goals, they're like completely for ourselves. Of course, like having other people like know about them and like kind of say like or like admire us for setting those goals, they can be like more inspiring. But on the other hand, like when you if you do complete it or if you do fail it, it's like it's a goal you set and like what other people think of what you've accomplished from setting that goal, like it just doesn't really matter. Also, like what you said about people like saying they're gonna do something, getting like satisfaction and leaving. I don't know. That's just like a really individual thing, and
Yeah, that's true.
I don't. I could at least say that I don't recommend it completely because at a certain point, people are just gonna say like I don't know, like people might just say that like this like you're acting in a way like I don't know how do I phrase that, but you might get like some amount of public backlash. Again, it doesn't really matter, but I think it only hurts you more if you set something and then don't intend to at least work towards it to an extent. Of course, you don't have to like when you set a goal, if eventually you like just don't feel like doing it, then that's sad. It's like it happens.
Yeah, yeah.
But like as much as like a goal is there to motivate you, if you have that there and you're just still not motivated, then it's like, yeah, you're just not motivated. It's fine. You can always set other goals. You can always you know, maybe like not worry about it. Like maybe if you have like a date planned for it, you can just like extend the date that the goal supposedly is supposed to be done by.
I'm actually
It's
glad you mentioned that whole like not I guess not beating yourself up over not accomplishing the goal that you set, because at the end of the day, if you look at pretty much any goal that you set, like it's relatively arbitrary. Like let's take a goal like I want to get a 200 PP score by the end of the year, right? It's like first of all, the number 200 is relatively arbitrary as opposed to like 199 or 201 or something like that. And also like being by the end of the year is relatively arbitrary. Like there's
yeah,
no, like you could have just as easily said like, I mean, okay, there's value in putting time restraint to it, obviously, because otherwise it's like you can get to it whenever.
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
actually motivate you. But at the same time, I think beating yourself up over like a random date that you set for yourself, having not met that arbitrary standard, so to speak, I think is something that you should like take a step back and sort of consider, I guess, pretty much what you're saying, which is that like you should use your goals as a motivator, but you shouldn't feel bad if you don't, not only if you don't reach them, but also if you're just not like if your sort of priorities change and you just don't care that much about reaching that goal anymore.
Yeah, like I have a bit of a goal to try and get 2 digit before the year ends, but like personally, like right now, like right after OWC end like tryouts, I was like really motivated. Like I was just like farming a lot more. But as it is right now, I'm just like not really motivated for it. And maybe in like a month, I'll get motivated again and I'll work towards it. And maybe I'll actually get it. Maybe I won't. But then like if I'm not motivated to do it, even like the goal's still there until the deadline or whatever. There's so like of course I'm still like want to do it, but then like if I don't feel like doing something, it's unless it's like I guess like taxes or something like it's like something you have to do. Um like there's no reason for me to push myself extra, especially when like there's other goals that I can work towards too.
Right. That does make sense. And sort of like as we've mentioned, kind of like shifting priorities is completely okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to go back to, well, this is actually relatively unrelated, but something I've been wanting to ask you is in your Discord status, it says it's Nami insert day of the week. I'm really curious what the
Okay.
story is there.
Um, can I just like put it in general?
You want to like type it
It's
out?
like it's like a GIF. It's a GIF.
Oh yeah, you can put it in the live chat. I can put it on the screen.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
I can put it on the
Um,
screen afterwards.
So it's literally just like this thing that I found where it's Nami from One Piece, and there's just gifs of like her saying it's Nami and then just a different day of the week. So
Oh,
it's literally just that.
oh my god, that's funny. Okay, let me see if I can put this on the screen. Oh, okay, so it's just like a random.
They have it. Yeah, it's just like there's one for every day of the week.
Okay, I put the
And I
Sunday
just
one on the screen. Or they're just random, I guess. I see.
yeah, I just like found it with my friends, and it was just like, yeah, I'll just make it my Discord status because I have nothing else to put there. So,
Oh god, that's funny.
as you're actually the first one who's ever asked about that, though.
Oh really?
Yeah, no one's ever asked.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Nami's actually a pretty relatively common like character name. So or like not a
Oh
super
yeah,
uncommon one. So it's like sometimes hard to tell like what exactly it's about.
yeah, definitely. There's probably tons of Nami from like anime or like books or something.
Yeah. That reminds me. There's someone who has their Discord name in a server set to like Glory Days Thursday, and like every Thursday we ping him, and he's like, "Yo, Glory Days Thursday," and it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna play Glory Days today."
Oh, oh my god,
So troll, but
that's funny.
yeah. Anyway, so I want to switch over. So this is still somewhat related to mindset, but I want to talk a bit about nerves and nerve control, both in
Oh yeah.
solo and in tournaments. Do you have any sort of life hacks, or I guess like your own experience with nerve control and ways to control it?
Um. So in general, I feel okay. So first, I guess one thing to say is that nerves in tournaments and nerves in solo, I think, are different. Also, nerves in multi, I think, are also a bit different from nerves in tournaments. But I don't think I could give like an explanation to why. It's just like that's kind of how I feel. Um. So I don't think I have good nerve control tips. Like I don't think I control them that well. Like so I think there's the mindset you could have that being because like nerves is like derived from like the word nervous or whatever. So
Right.
being nervous doesn't necessarily mean you're shaking super badly. Being nervous is like kind of like a thought you're thinking, like thinking you're gonna miss, or like thinking oh I think, or like being nervous, like, oh, I think I'm not gonna like get the right line in like this speech or play or whatever I'm doing, or something like that. So I think a lot of times people will say they're nervous, but in like they might just be like excited. Like I say a lot of time when I'm like playing in tournaments or whatever. I mean, I still might call it nervous, but I don't tend to think about like myself missing, or like, oh, like if I miss, we lose the point. I don't think I think about that like too much. So most of the time I just say like I'm really excited. And when it comes to that, I don't really know how to like stop shaking or something. Like I guess the way I can say it is that the less you strain, and it's like both like, with your hands, like both your hands, like with your tapping and your aiming, like the less you strain in both of them, like the less that the shaking impacts you, I think, or like it doesn't get as bad as it could. Like I think if you're like straining your aim hand to hit like a jump or something, and you're really nervous, then as soon as you stop straining, your shaking is just gonna get so much worse,
Oh yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
So that's not always the best. And then of course it's like the less you care about like the score you're setting, or the less you care about like the tournament you're in, or maybe like the more like maybe you're not taking it seriously. It's easier to not get as like shaky, or not like because you just don't care as much. Also, yeah, I guess like the main thing is just like I said, nerves is mainly your thinking and not like the shaking or whatever. That's just like being excited, which I think just happens when you're setting like a good score or a score you care about. And I think when it comes to not getting like nerves, not thinking about it, it's just like listening to the music. A lot of people have said like paying attention to their feet. I think good posture helps you stay calm. Not that
Ah.
I have the best posture, but just I think I joked about this when we were like in our when we were playing NADT, but I was like, just think about politics or something. You can just like think about anything that's not you missing, and then it's probably better than if you thought about you missing and then like, oh, this pattern coming up, it's like really tough, and I think I'm gonna miss, but I can't miss, and then
Yeah.
it happens, and then you start shaking, and then maybe you hit it, but then you start shaking so bad after, or like maybe you miss in the middle or something. It's just like it's just putting more pressure on yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I actually agree with all of that. I'd say I guess expectation aspect plays a really big part, but also like what you're focused on kind of also plays a really big role, because it's like if you're focused on the I'm not really sure how to put this, but it's like if you're specifically focused on making sure that something doesn't happen, especially if it's something in a game like Osu, it's like it's just going to really get to your head, as opposed to
Yeah.
if you start thinking of, I guess, anything unrelated and you just kind of are able to play on autopilot, then sometimes you don't even recognize that you've just hit like the entire hard section and you're just well into the next part of the map. So
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like mind block a bit. Um, kind of just like overthinking. I think that's the best way to put it. Just like nerves is just kind of like overthinking mid map about like stuff. And sometimes it's not even like about the pattern specific. It's just like, you know, thinking about, like I said before, like if I miss, we'll lose the point or something in like a tournament. Like that's just you're just overthinking it. Don't worry about it.
so what exactly is the difference in nerves between solo, multi, and tournaments?
Yeah, I think I said I don't really have a good thing about it, but like in multi, I generally say it's closer to like solo nerves for the most part. I mean, in multi, it can depend on like how you're playing, like in the multi, because you can play it like you're trying to set good scores. You can play it like you're trying to beat other people. You could just play like for fun. Same with same with like I guess everything actually, but like I guess solo nerves are more like solo nerves. I guess when you're thinking, I don't like. I want to set this PP play, or I don't. This would be like a really like insane score. Like I don't want to miss or something like that.
All right.
And I generally, I think they tend to not be as bad. Maybe this is a bold statement. I guess it's also just like personal, like me personally too. I think like you can get really nervous. Like of course, I can get really nervous for like when I'm just like hit a hard part and I'm like at the very end, like on like the slower part of like some aim DT map. Because I mean, as much as I say stuff about like try not to get nervous, I still get nervous and stuff. But like I think that kind of nerve isn't as bad. Like I feel like I never shake as much. Uh,
Like in
yeah,
solo?
but in solo, like I mean I shake, but I mean like I never shake as much as I would in like a tournament, like where I get like where I'm setting like a FC or something, like a good score. Like in tournaments, because I guess it can depend, like especially in team tournaments though, like you're thinking more like along the lines of, if I break, I lose, or like,
Yeah.
I need to set like a score that's like what I put on the team sheet, or like I need to like set up, I need to like set a good score for like what people might expect of me, like stuff like in like Soiji or whatever, like. I think there's a lot more pressure on some top players, like A seeds, to
Oh,
like, because they're the A seeds, they're supposed to be like the carries for the team, and it's like there's
yeah.
more pressure on them, like FCing like most of the map pool, or like getting like 700k plus on most of the map pool
Yeah.
than there is on like the D tier.
Yeah. Uh, Context for people who don't know what Suiji is, basically, it's a tournament where you get assigned a random team based on your rank. And so like all the players are sorted by rank and then like split into 4 sections, and then you get like 2 players from the top and basically 2 players from each of those sections of rank. And then during the match, you need to have 1 player from each of those tiers. So like A tier, or I think it's called seed, A seed through D seed. It's 4v4, and 1 of each needs to be in for every map. So you sort of have one, like the A seed is considered like the most skilled or highest ranked on the team, and so what you're saying is those players sort of have that expectation or like pressure put on them that they're the ones that need to perform the best.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it exists in like other like team tournaments and stuff too. It also exists in like 1v1 tournaments to an extent, because like, you know, you're the higher just seeded player. Like you got like, let's say you got like 5th seed and you're facing what seed would you face, like 26 or whatever?
Something like that,
like,
27 maybe.
Like, I guess it can depend, but it's like you might feel a bit more pressured sometimes than the lower tiered player. I guess it's more so like if you're the 5th seed facing whatever, like the fucking 14th seed, then there's like a bit more pressure on the 5th seed again, because like they have the expectation of like upholding their position, like kind of staying where they're expected, like doing what they're expected to do,
right,
and stuff. Also, I will say that like the Pundai Suidu that's going on right now actually has each like seed, like A seed, B seed, split up into 2 tiers.
oh yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like, I guess even maybe even more pressure, but there's also like the thing of like over time you just come to not care as much about that kind of pressure too.
that's true. But what you mentioned about like it even happens in normal tournaments. I know Emmerich mentioned that like people put that same type of pressure on him in every single tournament he plays because he's the rank 1 player. And so it's like, guys, don't worry about it. Emmerich's just going to carry. He's going to FC. And he's just sitting there in the lobby. He's like, guys, what if I don't FC?
Yeah. That's something, I mean, I might have some experience in, but it's like the amount of pressure I'm sure he faces, because there's also like all the people, like all the, I guess the fans, all like the people who watch him too. He has way more pressure than I think I'd ever have. So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple things. I think one thing that I want to emphasize that you kind of mentioned is that like pretty much everyone does feel those nerves to some extent. And so I feel like that's something that like, because sometimes you watch top players in these matches and it's like, dude, they're like holding it together so well. But then if you were like listening to like the thoughts in their head, they're just like, they're freaking out. They're like, oh my God, what? So I think you do want to, I guess it's just a reassurance for a lot of people that like nerves is sort of something that everyone deals with to some extent. And so I think that's definitely something that can calm some people down as well.
Yeah. I think this is kind of something that I think you kind of realize, or at least that I've realized from like school and stuff, when you have like those certain classes that are like, you know, maybe it's like the teacher or something, it's like really confusing. And then you're thinking, oh my God, this is so confusing. Like everyone's gonna like think I'm like dumb or something.
Oh,
because like I can't get this, and then you kind of just like from experience, like you'll talk to people and then you just realize, holy shit, no one fucking understands what the teacher's talking about. Like, what is this?
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like the thing where, for the most part, I'd like to think that maybe even if everyone hasn't experienced it, like a lot of people experience it. So there's like nerves, like you know, like stuff like losing matches you're supposed to win, or supposedly, or I don't know, just lots of things like that. It's like a lot of the time with how many people there are and how many, like just in the entire world, there's definitely people who have like experienced stuff like that before. So you're like never alone. Like in tournaments especially, I think like everyone gets nervous, and the people who don't are lying. Don't trust them.
It's true. It's true. If they say they're not nervous, they're just trying to make you even more nervous.
Exactly.
But yeah, expectations are a huge thing. I feel like for you, like even during your World Cup tryouts this year, which was, I guess, like last month or a month and a half ago. But it's like that sort of, I feel like you had this expectation going in that like you weren't putting pressure on yourself to make the team. And I think that gives you a lot more freedom to just kind of play the game, so to speak.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it was like I definitely like the first week I didn't really feel much pressure at all. The second week though, because like I showed some people, I posted on Twitter, I showed some people in my lobby. It's like they're like, "Oh, you might have a chance," and I started feeling it a bit more. But I
Ah,
don't think it got to me as much. I think usually a lot of the time when it comes to like pressure, it comes from outside of you and not like from you specifically. Like because when you first get into this game and you like maybe play PP maps, like if you don't like watch anything, you don't interact with the community at all. It's kind of just you, and I don't think you'd feel as pressured to like maybe getting like a 200 PP score, like, and you haven't gotten one yet, like getting your first 200. I don't think it would be as I don't feel like you'd get as nervous or care about it as much compared to like when you like get more into the community and they're like, oh, it's like a big step or something, or like
yeah, yeah.
so, or like someone and they're like, oh, I've been trying to get this for a while, and then you're about to get it and you're like, oh, oh shit, I'm about to do what this guy wanted to do.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's like you sort of almost don't realize that it's something that actually means a lot to some people.
Yeah. Like I think a lot of the time other people's kind of like passion can like pour onto other people, I guess, and kind of influence them,
I
and like nerves too.
Yeah, 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 for sure. That's actually something that I worry about sometimes mentioning things to people that it's like, especially to people who feel like they're like I wouldn't say oblivious per se, but like they're like not concerned about like a certain thing, and it's like I don't want to plant that seed in their head. Like I don't like I'm sometimes
Yeah.
concerned about that.
Yeah, I get that. Um, I don't know. I don't think anyone really knows about that. It's like it is what it is, I guess.
That reminds me, Window Life, who recently started, or I guess popped off and got a
Oh
1.1k
yeah.
PP score, but he mentioned that he like didn't really think of like he didn't consider the scope of the score that he set at the time, but like after the fact when he saw like the community like raving about it, then he got like secondhand nerves, or like
Yeah,
post
yeah.
score nerves, like thinking about it after the fact.
I definitely feel that. Like, sometimes it'll be like, you get a tournament placing and like when you're in like playing in the tournament, you don't really realize, but then after the fact you like look at it and you're like, holy shit, I got like I don't know, I got like 6 out of like what 64 teams or something. That's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Or like I guess also with like setting number 1 scores also to an extent. Like you'll be like you get a number 1 score and you're like, "Holy shit, I'm actually like number 1 on this map." Like it's a world record.
Yeah,
No
that's
one else
true.
has this. I
Dang.
think a lot of times you won't like notice like that when you're first like when you do it.
But yeah, I think a big thing that you mentioned that I think is not really something I've thought of before is sort of like instead of like thinking of it as nerves in your head, sort of thinking it as like just feeling excited about the situation that you're in and like what you're sort of I don't know about to experience both like in the match. If you're feeling nervous, it probably means you care about it to some extent, which is definitely good.
Yeah.
Um, because I think you'd rather have that than to just be like completely soulless. I don't know, but I think sort of reframing it in your head to just sort of like recognizing like oh I'm like excited to play this match and just see what happens. I feel like that's actually a pretty healthy way to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I Because I think when you think about it as nerves, you think about it as something negative,
Yeah, yeah,
and when you think about it as just being excited, then it's kind of just like I wouldn't always say positive because you're still like maybe a bit concerned about shake or whatever, but like when you think about it about like being excited or something, you think like, oh yeah, you're excited. It's kind of cool and stuff,
yeah.
and like you care about it in like in a positive sense.
The last thing I want to go back to that you mentioned is like remembering the wrong line in a play or something like that. And at least for me, so my experience with that is like I was in drama in sixth grade, and our drama teacher basically told us that like if you like on the day of the play, if you remember the line a little wrong and like you don't get the words perfectly right, like no one in the audience is gonna know. So it's like don't put that much pressure on yourself to just get every single line perfectly. And like if you got
Oh,
like one word a little different, then like don't freak out because just like keep playing, like keep going because like no one like in the audience actually knows.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've never done like actual like drama or theater or something, but I did take choir for 3 years. So I guess that's kind of similar. It's like,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
forget the lyrics a bit.
Right.
It's like whatever. You can just, I mean, like especially in that case, because there's like, you know, like 50 other kids with you singing the same thing. So surely like half of them at least know what they're saying. So you can
Right.
you can kind of figure it out.
Yeah, you can just like fake it in one section and just pick yourself back up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like that goes for anything actually. I'm like things like piano or just playing any instrument. It's like if you hit a wrong note by accident, and this is probably the most transferable to OSU. Is like if you hit a wrong note by accident, it's like I think it makes it way worse if you start to like slow down and think about like, oh God, I wish I could go back and fix that like
Oh,
wrong note. It's like it just you just want to keep going like strong, almost as if nothing happened, and just like okay, you messed up one note, but just keep going, basically.
yeah. That actually that reminded me how I took guitar lessons for like a couple months in 6th grade. And, my teacher, like, hounded me for that because 'cause I'd, like, you know, just completely, like, stop what I'm doing, like, "I gotta fix this." He's like, "No, just keep going, like, it's whatever."
Yeah,
It's
and
like yeah. And
yeah,
it also the thing to say is, like, for the most part, like, if you know, if you mess up, like, 1 or 2 keys on, like, a piano in, like, some concert or something, or if you, like, say, you know, your word wrong in a play and kinda added a bit or something, it's like only the people who, like, know, like, the play or know the song, like, by heart would, like, realize that something happened. It's
yeah,
like most people don't even realize that something like that happened.
and the people that do know it by heart have probably been in your exact shoes before. They can empathize
Yeah,
with you.
yeah.
So it's not like they're like, ah man, this guy sucks. It's like, oh man, that's the experience that everyone has to deal with. Like I feel for that person.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, man, I remember this is sort of an unrelated story, but I was in band for 2 years in middle school also, and I was so bad at sight reading. I basically memorized every song that we played. And one time I was sitting with a band instructor and he was asking me to like try sight reading a piece. And I was like, dude, I can't sight read. And he was like, well, just try playing the notes as best you can. And then he put on a metronome and he asked me to just start playing. And I think I got like two notes in and I just like stopped. I literally had no idea what to play. And he was like, dude,
Yeah.
play something. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I
That was
that's definitely, like,
uh,
something similar has happened to me. I mean, maybe even I don't remember a choir that much, but I could assume something like that happened. I know she made us, like, come up and, like, do, like, scales or something, I think.
oh God.
I don't remember. I was always like I remember I got nervous for that.
Doing scales in front of the other students.
We do it, like, technically in front of the instructor, but, you know, all the other students are, like, behind you and, like, in their chairs or whatever,
Oh, just
like,
sitting there
listening.
judging you.
Y Yeah, I know in choir sometimes I would always think to myself, "God, I'm probably, like, completely off key all the time,"
Oh
but
no.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I feel like the people sitting down, they're either not paying attention because I already did their scales, or they're worried about doing their own scales. So
Yeah, that's kinda something I realized, like, going into high school and, like, presentations and stuff. Like, most of the time for presentations, people don't give a shit. If your presentation's bad, then they don't care. If your presentation's, like, actually good and they're actually interested, then, you know, they're actually interested.
right,
And then, you know, people who haven't gone are worried about their presentation, and people who have gone are just, like, relieved. So it's like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's like just kind of recognizing that like there's no downside compared to what you probably imagine, basically.
yeah.
Yeah. So I have an unrelated question.
Hmm.
That is, looking at your OSU user page, you have a banner It's a Minecraft screenshot. It looks like
Oh,
someone lying down in a bed that's in the Nether. Can you explain the context behind what's happening in this banner?
so like many things is don't think there's much context. I think I just randomly I think one of my friends showed me a subreddit like cursed Minecraft images, and I think that was on there, and I just put it as my banner when I got supported because I was like, I guess I should put something here,
I
and I just
see.
haven't ever changed it.
How long ago was
And
that?
um, so when I first got supporter it was I don't know, but it's been like what? So it's been like a year and a half, I think.
Oh my god, that's
Um,
awesome.
I actually just realized recently that from tournaments you get banners, and I just realized they're not meant for like the me page. They're meant for like the actual banner on your user page. I
Oh,
used to
you
like
used
I'm
to
pretty
what?
sure, right? I never realized that, so I never thought of like ever changing my banner like for like a tournament like like because I have like 3 banners in my me page,
Right.
and I always thought, oh yeah, you put them there. You never put them like in the banner of your actual profile.
Well, you actually don't. You actually, it is actually for the me section
Oh wait, really?
because
I thought. I mean, I've seen people put it there though.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something you can do, but those sorts of like tournament banners have been a thing since the old website, which didn't have the like the one that's like on top of
Oh,
your
okay.
username. Like people would make a graphic to put because the me section, so basically your avatar was on the left of your user page, and then on the right side was like your me section, and then your rank graph, and then your
Yeah,
everything else.
I kind of I've seen what it looks like. I think when I first started, it was still there, but I didn't like remember it because I didn't really play then.
Yeah, people would make like some cool like graphic like banner that's like welcome to my user page, sort of like try to put some personality into like the top of their user page, which is what people would see before they click the expand button. And basically these tournament banners were supposed to be like things that you could put on that spot in your user page, but not like the
Okay.
actual banner that's on top of your name and the new website. So yeah, that's an interesting because sometimes it feels a little scuffed because it's like third place for like a random tournament and you have it as your banner. I mean, like it's cool that you get something like that, but I feel like it's for me, I feel like it's more suitable in your actual like the user page me section.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, it's just weird to kind of have like one banner, I guess, from like 3 years ago or something. It's like I don't know,
Right.
but yeah.
Oh yeah. One thing I do want to ask about is the like cat girl, not cat girl, but like the loaf meme like collab thing that you did with a couple other people. Like I think that was during the World Cup tryouts actually. Is
Yeah, that was
Avatar
for
collab.
a while. That started before Corsair started, I think.
Well, what exactly is that? Was that collab? Like, who else was in it?
Um, okay, so I got asked by what, like Axolotl and Razorfruit to join it. Then I never got, you know how you put like the image in your me page of all like the other
Oh
people.
yeah.
They never actually sent that to me, and I never actually asked for it. Um, so I never got that, but that was just like I think that was I mean, I didn't like plan for that, so I just joined them. But it was like Axolotl, Razorfruit, uh Lego Okami, aka Just Legend, aka what was it, the Pokemon he changed himself to? Forget what it was. Um
Oh,
don't remember anyone else.
I see it in Razorford's profile. It's there.
Yeah.
That's what there's an iFunny watermark at the bottom. Oh my
Oh
god,
yeah, yeah, I remember that time.
that's so troll.
Yeah, that was a funny collab.
But yeah, so if I had to ask if there's one thing that you think is the most important for getting better, either at OSU or really, I guess, anything, if there's one thing that you think beats everything else, what would you say that would be?
Oh, passion. If you're not like I think like you can be as like quote unquote talented you can be like the most talented person in the world, but if you have like zero passion, which will end up meaning like you basically don't play, you just won't get anywhere. So it's like everyone who I think has reached like a high rank or like a high skill level in some skill set has like, they've enjoyed what they're doing, they're passionate about it. I think it's like hard to it's not impossible, but I think it's like much harder to get good at something if you don't like actually care about it to a certain degree or like enjoy it to a certain degree.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree with that actually. It's like w- I think when you're truly passionate about something, then you'll dedicate yourself to it regardless of like you won't worry about, oh, am I improving, and like, oh, it's only fun if I notice myself improving. It's like if you just find fun in the activity and it doesn't even feel like a chore to you, then like you're gonna get through every single skill ball that presents itself because you won't even think about it. You're just gonna keep playing and having fun, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I certainly wouldn't like be still playing this game like what 2,300 hours later if I didn't have some amount of passion or like enjoyment towards it.
Yeah, very, very well said. Do you have any final words of wisdom or just advice or opinions or anything else you'd like to share or shout out with the world?
Um, I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really have anything.
Yeah, I think your comment about passion is probably a good one to end off with.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, thanks again, Swick, for joining and sharing your experiences and awesome wisdom. I feel like there's a lot
Of
of
course.
like valuable stuff, especially with like I guess like mindset and goal setting, and I think like the sort of the things that are really important that I think a lot of people don't give as much thought to. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, thanks
All
again.
the stuff I got from high school health class.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to share it all with us. Do you have any places where people can find you other than your OC profile?
um, Twitter.com/swick_bruh. Uh, every other stuff was taken, I guess. Twitch.tv/swick_, and youtube.com/swick. I'm not sure if that'll actually take you to it, but I have a YouTube channel it's just Swick. There's no underscore. You'd probably be able to find like video of it.
I feel like I just went to your Twitter and
Yeah.
I just got blasted by the bra zone.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that maybe if I change that, um, I guess I'd like get more followers or something. But I also just like kind of want to leave it like that because it's been like that since I made my account. So
Oh
the
god.
only time I changed my profile picture, like anything, was during the whole thing where people were trying to get Air You trending. Remember, like on Twitter? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, 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 I do actually. That's funny.
That was the only time I ever changed my profile picture.
That's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, sounds good. Thanks again for joining, and thank you everyone for listening. We will see you all next time.
Bye.